today. UFC 311 is in the books, and a few days removed, we ponder a few things about Islam Makhachev, his career, and is he the current pound for pound best fighter in the UFC? But also, a current war is ravaging its way through the YouTube MMA landscape as everyone tries to figure out, is Merab the Bantamweight GOAT? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt, and we are here to go over the main and the co-main event from UFC 311. We're gonna ponder a couple of things, if you will, about Islam Makhachev and Merab the Bantamweight. So, let's start out with Islam Makhachev. What am I gonna ponder? What am I gonna rant about? There's quite a bit I could, but what we're going to focus on today is where exactly does Islam Makhachev fit in your pound for pound conversation? Okay, the majority of everyone, the majority of a lot of UFC fans, whether hardcore or whether casual, believe that Islam Makhachev is pound for pound the best fighter in the sport today. It's a hard thing to measure. It's a hard thing to really wrap your head around, if you will. But where does he sit? Who else is up there right now? You know what I'm saying? Automatically, when you're talking about fighters currently fighting, it's really only one other person that, rolls off the top of everyone's head, and that is Jon Jones. And I mean... Look, man, it's a slippery slope, because if Jon Jones was actively fighting all of the time and he was winning all the time, then no doubt it would have to be Jon Jones, right? But because Jon Jones is not as active, or very, rarely active compared to Islam, it's hard to really pit him against Islam. But also, I would add a caveat to that. Being an MMA fan, looking at how MMA works with their champions, former champions, and their pound for pounds and their GOATs, so on and so forth. When you compare it to like boxing. In boxing, you could have, Tyson Fury. Let's take out his two losses, right? Take away his two losses to Usyk. When you look at Tyson Fury and the way boxing is structured, heavyweight champion, undefeated, kind of drops in and fights whenever he wants. Usually, you kind of see Tyson fight once a year. Sometimes he might take a little bit more than a year off. He's coming back maybe in 14 months, 15 months, something like that. But what I feel like in boxing is you can have a heavyweight champion, because there are so many heavyweight champions, so many belts, so many promotions. It seems that you could have a lot of pound for pound fighters, like your Bud Crawfords, your Canelo Alvarez's. Now, Canelo likes to stay active once or twice a year, but you got your Bud Crawfords. He might take off a good 15 or 16 months. You know what I'm saying? And what's interesting or different about boxing is guys can take time off, allow top of the line contenders to appear, and then step in and fight them, and no one really questions their GOAT status. Very interesting when you're talking about MMA, where the fights are happening so frequently. The Dana White's trying to get fights in 52 weeks a year. You know what I'm saying? He's trying to put you in overtime if you're covering MMA. You know what I'm saying? And we really measure our pound for pounds more based out of how frequently is this person fighting versus this other guy. If this guy doesn't fight as often, it doesn't really matter if he's undefeated in a way. It doesn't really matter that, he goes out there and still disposes of everybody. Is he fighting frequently? Are we seeing him at least once a year or often throughout a year? What is his frequency of entering into the octagon or into the cage? You know what I'm saying? That really plays a factor when you're talking about mixed martial arts versus boxing. And that definitely plays the factor here. We're talking about Islam Makhachev, who usually is good for at least one fight a year. Sometimes he'll get 2 fights in a year, or maybe more. Usually at least 2, though. I'm sorry, usually at least 1, maybe 2 if you got a good year. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at Islam, bro, John was disposing of opponents a lot more frequently earlier in his career. Of course, big age gap between these two men. World of difference. 2 different eras, 2 different generations that they're coming up in. But I mean, overall, if you're going to go by what usually the MMA standard is of how often is a guy entering into the cage to fight, you'd have to give it to Islam. Another interesting thing that I peeped about Islam Makhachev, homie's short notice fight game is unparalleled. You know what I'm saying? One could argue the caliber of these opponents, but still, bro, one thing you can bank on with Islam Makhachev is a fighter that takes a short notice fight against Islam Makhachev. From what we've seen, it is a wrap. It's a wrap, bro. Homie coming in and taking people's lunches, they lunch money, going in their pockets, taking the money they was going to use to buy their mother a Mother's Day card, going in the pockets, took your Father's Day card money and everything. Homie is a menace when it comes to short notice fights. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it, short notice Bobby Green goes out there, subs him quickly. Short notice Alexander Volkanovski knocks him out. Knocks Volko out, bro. Slap him. You know what I'm saying? Steps in the octagon short notice with Money Moicano. Extremely short notice on that one. But he delivered, bro. Went out there and subbed him quickly. Look, I ain't got time for a second round, my dude. You out in the first. I'm chilling with Coach Khabib. Also, another thing about Islam's, let's call it his short notice game. Islam's short notice game is impeccable. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you don't get a good, solid training camp in, the game plan for this dude, it's a wrap, bro. It's a wrap. Which, in my opinion, speaks to Islam's fight IQ once he's in a fight. You know what I'm saying? This homie, in my opinion, he might do better in short notice fights than he does in fights that he has a big, long gap of time to game plan for an opponent, like kind of like what we saw when he fought Dustin Poirier, you know what I'm saying? Or even the first Volko fight. It's like when homie's got all of this time to game plan against an opponent, it don't go as well. You know what I'm saying? This homie's short notice game is impeccable. It's impeachable. It's imperial. You know what I'm saying? I'm throwing out all kind of M's. It just is, bro. I don't know what else to say. Islam Makhachev, in my opinion, is pound for pound the best fighter in the sport right now. I know that's not a hot take. I'm saying that with a John Jones poster on my wall. I know I'm not, in the minority in that. But to me, it's just not debatable. Yeah, you can talk about the caliber of his opponents. Yeah, but at the end of the day, man, as I said in my video recapping UFC 311, who else are you going to lock him in the cage with? You know what I'm saying? Who else you going to lock him in the cage with? Now that homie skated, the only person left is really Sarukian. Now that he skated away from that injury or whatever went on with him, didn't feel like cutting all the weight, I don't know. As he came in shredded, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know how much more weight he had to lose. Looked like he put on a little bit of muscle weight. That might have been a little bit more difficult to get off of his frame. You know what I'm saying? Who you going to put in there against Islam is all I'm saying. Let's move on, bro. Let's talk about Merab. Let's talk about Merab. There's been a debate going on, ever since 311 about is Merab the Bantamweight GOAT. And I thought this was very interesting. I was talking about this with my homie. Bro, at the end of the day, man, what's so neat about mixed martial arts, about, MMA, about the UFC, is we have been around long enough. The sport has been around long enough, finally, where you've seen different generations of and different calibers of fighters come through, where GOAT debates are getting very interesting. Much like when you talk about in NBA and basketball, you talk about the debate between Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Who's the GOAT, right? And it's so interesting that MMA has been around long enough to debate this aspect of it, being it's hard to debate it. It's hard to debate it. Just like Jordan versus LeBron. Because everybody has their take on that. You know what I'm saying? I'm an older cat, so I like Jordan. At the same time, I'm a LeBron fan as well. And in my opinion, I got to go along with Jordan because I was coming up in the impact of Jordan. But it's almost like when you're talking about athletically, statistic-wise, it's so neat that MMA has been around long enough to be able to do that. Because the games are different. Like you're looking at Michael Jordan, a tremendous competitor. Someone that captured everybody's everything during that point in time. His cultural impact is unmatched. Unparalleled, you know what I'm saying? Like Mike, bro. But at the same time, LeBron's coming up in an era of pure athlete. Raw athlete. You know what I'm saying? Willing to put in the reps, the practice under that Kobe Bryant era. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James comes along in that where you're talking about competing with other athletes right now. These dudes right now are jumping out the gym, you know what I'm saying? Much different from Jordan's era. So you almost have to quantify it or qualify it. Like, are we talking about social impact? Are we talking about tenacity and fire? Are we talking about competing with world-class athletes? And that's where mixed martial arts has made it to, which is awesome to see. Because when you're talking about bantamweights, part of the debate was Dominic Cruz versus Merab. Who's the GOAT at bantamweight, you know what I'm saying? You talk about Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz comes along in a time in which you got to talk about early Cruz, not the current Cruz, not the current Dominic Cruz, the Dominator fighting right now. We talking about WEC early days, made a whole division for him and his Uriah Faber fights at 135 in the UFC. Bro, Dominic Cruz was such a savage, such an animal. But when he was coming up, cats didn't have movement like Dominic Cruz. Nobody had ever seen that before. The way that he was approaching the footwork game, mixing it in with the striking game, that long range, like kind of lunging right hand that Dominic Cruz had, followed by an immediate duck into a takedown. Bruh, if you wasn't around in that area, you don't even know, bro. That was blowing cats' minds. I realize it ain't nothing nowadays, but at that point in time, it was blowing cats' minds, you know what I'm saying? Dominic Cruz was an animal. But as mixed martial arts levels up and keeps going, a lot of people have taken that footwork and added on wrestling, grappling, in extreme levels of stand-up, striking. Like you're talking about a Corey Sandhagen, you know what I'm saying? Who took a lot of what Dominic Cruz was already doing and leveled it up. So you got to look at that versus Merab, right? And I would say Dominic Cruz with that footwork was the better fighter and the more skilled fighter. But when you talk about prime Dominic Cruz against prime Merab or current Merab, is Dominic going to be able to go the 5 rounds with that Merab gas tank? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? That's hard to call, bro. That's hard to call. Let's talk about the unsung bantamweight hero. The guy that don't nobody talk about no more due to, how his career ended. TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw, bro. We talking about TJ mother effing Dillashaw. Bro, TJ Dillashaw comes in, incorporates a little bit of that Dominic Cruz footwork, has some really good striking, you know what I'm saying? Has some extreme wrestling, you know what I'm saying? Better wrestler than Dominic Cruz. Even though Dominic Cruz beat the man, and I watched that fight live, and I felt like Dominic Cruz won that fight. But still, bro, TJ Dillashaw comes along with really good wrestling, really good stand-up, tenacious, you know what I'm saying? TJ Dillashaw comes out there, he's got a gas tank. And I mean, let's dip back into the wrestling game again. And TJ was always elevating his game, always adding new little wrinkles. He was really good at game planning, really good at breaking fighters down as far as their tactics, their tendencies. We talking about TJ Dillashaw. You know what I'm saying? Broke up the fabric of Team Alpha Male. You know what I'm saying? TJ Dillashaw, bro. But you throw a prime TJ in there, EPO or not, my dude. Prime TJ in there with Merab. Let's talk about it. There was a few fights where TJ Dillashaw kind of, he kind of skated with some decisions that we wasn't sure he should have skated with, like his fight with a guy I just talked about, Corey Sandhagen. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You're talking about prime TJ in there with Merab. There was some fights TJ kind of slowed down a little bit in that 5th round. And we don't see that from Merab. That gas tank is lethal of Merab. And that fight with Umar, it looked like Merab kind of leveled up his striking a little bit. It wasn't, tippy top, world class. It wasn't Bangkok ready. You know what I'm saying? If you know that reference from Joe Rogan, shout out Eddie Bravo. Bro, I don't know, bro. I don't know. Merab's gas tank kind of puts him a step above even the legends. It's hard to say, bro. Hard to say. It's going to be very interesting to see how the rest of Merab's career plays out. But right now, bro, it's hard to say that you're not going to pick Merab against prime TJ or prime Dominic Cruz. That gas tank is lethal, bro, and I'm not even a huge Merab fan. But game recognized game, that gas tank is lethal. I don't know, man. Y'all let me know in the comments. Is Merab the Bantamweight GOAT? Does he beat prime TJ or prime Dominic Cruz? I mean, pretty much, I feel like even an old head is going to tell y'all, I don't see either one of them cats beating Merab in that gas tank. I don't know. I don't care. I came up watching them two in that era, and I don't see it happening. But y'all let me know if y'all think otherwise or if you agree. Also, Islam Makhachev, pound for pound, right? I mean, come on, right? You ain't got nobody else, right? Come on. You got to agree with your boy Matt. Prime, right? He's right now. Islam Makhachev, pound for pound, right now, right? Holla at me. Let me know. Once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.